Hi, welcome to the podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start conversation on Unit 12, Role of Education for Empowerment of the Marginalized. And our topic is Educational Experience of Scheduled Caste Tribe. One of the distinguished features of the scheduled tribes is that the majority of them live in scattered habitation located in the interior, remote and inaccessible hilly and forest areas of the country. This also accounts for the fact that ST are highly heterogeneous and diversity in terms of language, culture, location, custom, beliefs, tradition and socio-economic conditions is enormous. Latest data in fact make the disturbing revelation that ST lag behind all the other marginalized group and way behind the national average in terms of educational progress. Given the diverse locations of tribal population in terms of educational progress, the disparity among the states in terms of tribal literacy does not come as a surprise. A disparity to the extent that is witnessed in the state-wise figures, however, leaves much to be desired. While most of the northeastern states and some educationally advanced states like Kerala and Himachal Pradesh have achieved satisfactory levels of tribal literacy rates, educationally backward states like Rajasthan, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh make the overall picture highly discouraging. As already explained, tribal habitations are generally characterized by a scheduled and interior physical location. This makes physical accessibility to schools a problem. Drawing on the data of the 5th and 6th All India Educational Survey, Susata insisted that in most all tribal populated areas, the number of schools within 1 kilometer of habitation have increased. But difficult terrain and hilly regions make the distance of even 1 kilometer hard to cover, considering the fact that children are expected to go to school and come back home on a daily basis. It further becomes impossible if the distance is more than 1 kilometer, considering the fact that at least 10% of tribal habitations have been primary school beyond a distance of 2 kilometers. It shows how school remains inaccessible to these children. Though access still is far below the satisfactory position, the enrollment rates among the tribal population make a positive picture. Not only have the overall figures showed a significant improvement from 36.5% in 1989 to 43% in 1997 to 1998. The gender gap too is seemingly reducing. Sujatas further shows a similar trend in the upper primary and secondary levels of schooling. Due to high dropout rates among the tribal children, schools fail to retain them. The chief reasons for this are high levels of absenteeism and large-scale failure of students in the year-end assessment. The problem is further compounded by poor achievement rates in the tribal population as compared to non-tribal. Now let us move to the next point: mainstream education and the marginalized. This disturbing trend of dropouts after initial enrollment forces one to ponder over qualitative aspect of schooling and the real classroom experiences of the children coming from the marginalized section of society. In other words, one need to adopt a framework of social justice which looks beyond the aggregate concerns and towards the factor of social justice, identity issues, and pedagogical concerns. The learning environment provided to these children is often characterized by poor infrastructure, lack of basic amenities, and less than adequate number of teachers. Data on the state of schools in rural areas, backward villages, and Adivasi areas confirm this observation. Such schools count for a poor learning environment and have a negative impact on the motivational and aspirational levels of the students as well as the parents. Centralized curriculum represents yet another issue. Krishna Kumar maintains that the centralized curriculum reflects the culture and social existence of the mainstream groups. It fails to draw upon the factors, objects, experiences, and issues which the children of marginalized minorities live with. It therefore does not talk about the socio-cultural lives of these children. On the one hand, such a curriculum fails to relate to the knowledge base of the student who find it irrelevant and meaningless, and on the other, it also affects their social self-identity and feeling of self-worth in a negative way. This leads to conflict in the young minds and an overall sense of disillusionment, which is often large enough to force children to drop out of the formal scheme of education. The curriculum is further characterized by the creation and reinforcement of the stereotypes of the marginalized sections that are often presented as negative. Hence, as Krishna Kumar suggests that the SC and ST are often depicted as culturally backward. Nimbison mentions that these communities are largely portrayed in subservient roles in accordance with what is perceived as their traditionally low position in the social hierarchy. This further feeds the discriminatory practices and adverse peer and teacher attitude in the schools, which contributes to a feeling of demotivation and discouragement in the students besides damaging their self-identity. Similar issues emerge due to gender stereotypes in the formal curriculum. Textbooks have been criticized for depicting women in traditional roles and stereotypical fashion, which leads to a setting of negative role models for the girl child. This also strengthens the patriarchal state of mind and encourages the girl child to conform to the standards without questioning them or looking for better alternatives. It is in fact full of gender stereotypes and fails to construct new ways of viewing and establishing social relations between men and women. The effect of the biased textbook further shows up in discriminatory practices adopted by teachers and peers. SCs and STs are often ridiculed, avoided, and discriminated against due to the traditional low socio-economic status. Overt acts of discrimination such as segregation in seating arrangement, refusal to let them use the common pitcher for drinking water or to touch them and their notebook and so on are not unheard of. Low expectations and lack of encouragement also show up in poor performance of SC, ST and girl children. Furthermore, the formal curriculum is based on a model of direct instruction by teacher who holds authority and power. He is often supposed to discipline children's body and minds by encouraging a culture of rote learning. Such a classroom culture is often based on direct instruction from the teacher, where students are expected to take down notes, memorize, and reproduce it in the examinations without questioning either the process or the content. The teacher therefore fails to provide any special assistance or creative support to these children, who often are first generation learners with a knowledge base that is completely alien and the classroom environment that remains non-supportive. These children lose motivation to do well and complete schooling. Furthermore, schools often fail to use their mother tongue as the medium of instruction. A number of policy documents have stressed on the pedagogical and cultural importance of the use of the mother tongue in schools, especially at the primary levels. But Adivasis languages and local dialects find no place in the classroom. In fact, they are discouraged and even ridiculed. This not only further alienates the child from the classroom but also raises serious problems in comprehension and understanding, evident in the large number of failures and poor performance. The exclusion of the child's language and culture from the medium and the content of the school knowledge, as well as messages of inferiority and confirmation that are conveyed to the children, are likely to affect the motivation and aspiration of the children in a negative way. This accounts for the loss of interest and lack of effort to continue and gets reflected in the poor retention rate. Thus, what is required is a change in the formal curriculum to be able to accommodate the wider social reality and serious effort in order to give a place of rightful respect and dignity to these sections of society and their socio-cultural and economic environment. The former curriculum should be able to voice the experiential reality of the Dalit, Adivasis and the girl children to enable them to relate and derive meanings and relevance out of it. From the point of view of the girl child, it makes sense to give place in the curriculum to an examination of women's subordination throughout history, women's contribution and participation in the history making, the value of work commonly performed by women, such as domestic work, the importance of women in the processes of decision making, participation, and organization, and the incorporation of women's way of knowing and focus on women's experiences. This in effect means giving a more critical approach to the curriculum. Change in curriculum would, however, remain useless and ineffective unless a corresponding change in the pedagogical culture and teacher attitude is initiated, which is more sensitive to and shows a greater understanding of the social and pedagogical issues of marginalized. Here we want to wind up this conversation, and thank you so much for choosing this podcast.